I made the same chocolate chip cookie recipe 5 times and changed just one thing each time. When I shared my last cookie experiment, a lot of you asked what's the difference between granulated sugar and brown sugar in a cookie. We'd really like to know what roles each of these play. So today I wanted to answer that question. So what we have here is my best chocolate chip cookie recipe made 5 times. Each time we made these, we used the exact same amount of sugar by weight. Before this version, we used only granulated sugar. For this version, we used only dark brown sugar. Here we used a blend of granulated, light, and dark brown sugar, which you will find in many of my cookie recipes. And here we used just light brown sugar. Now I also wanted to try something a little bit fun and experimental, so we also made a batch using only powdered sugar, which is not common for chocolate chip cookies. You'll usually find powdered sugar used in shortbreads or like Mexican wedding cookies, but we wanted to try it here as well. And what we found was very interesting to me, I won't lie. If you've watched my other videos, you know that sugar does a lot more than just sweeten a cookie. It contributes to the caramelization of it, the spread of it, and how soft and chewy it is and how long it stays soft and chewy. Granulated sugar and brown sugar are both sugars, right? But there's one key difference, and the difference is molasses. Brown sugar is just refined granulated sugar mixed with molasses. Now, some brands will just refine the sugar a bit less and retain some of the natural molasses, but oftentimes it's molasses added back in, and you can make your own brown sugar at home by just adding molasses to granulated sugar. Now, brown sugar is a favorite in a lot of bakers' kitchens, and that's because it adds a lot of depth of flavor thanks to that molasses, but also it retains moisture really well. When that's baked into your cookie, it's going to hold onto moisture in the cookie. It'll make the cookie chewier and it'll keep the cookie chewier and softer. The other side of that is that it can dry out because that moisture can evaporate in the air. So if you ever leave it sit out, you'll notice it will harden over time. That's because that moisture is evaporated and those sugar crystals are sticking to each other, and it can get pretty hard and firm, and it can even become basically unusable. You want your brown sugar to be soft and pliable. It's very important. Now, powdered sugar is a little bit different. There's no molasses in this. It's just sugar with usually cornstarch added. It's super fine sugar and cornstarch. Cornstarch I love using in a lot of my recipes because it does help make a cookie softer and more tender, but this really brings up the ratio of cornstarch in the cookie quite a bit if you're using powdered sugar. The cookie texture tends to be a lot more tender and more crumbly if you're using that much cornstarch or if you're using all powdered sugar, which is why it's great for shortbread. All right, let's break into these cookies and talk about them a little bit. This was the first one. It was made with all granulated sugar. I'm gonna break into it. These are day old. I made them yesterday, but it's got some bend to it. It's certainly not like a dry, crumbly cookie, and they're still pretty chewy. Now, it's not quite as chewy as its neighbors here, but it still has some chew factor. Let me get off that weird chocolate chip. And the cookie is nice and soft inside. However, it doesn't have quite the same depth of flavor that these other cookies do. The flavor of this cookie doesn't have a lot of the more caramelly undertones. It's a lot, I wanna say cleaner. You can really taste the chocolate. It's very present there. Our next cookie, this is our all dark brown sugar guy. This cookie, if I'm quiet enough, you might be able to hear it. This cookie is our thickest one that we have of all of them, but it's a subtle difference. It's not a huge difference. It's going to be the softest, and it's also going to have the deepest flavor. I don't feel like these cookies taste like molasses, but they have a molasses undertone that's there. While I love to use some dark brown sugar, I like bringing in that extra moisture and that chewiness. I don't like to use all dark brown sugar because it can be a little overbearing and cloying, and it can kind of muddy the other flavors of the cookie that you want to shine. You don't want to just taste brown sugar. You want to taste the vanilla. You want to taste the chocolate. You want to taste some of the butter as well. So it makes an interesting cookie, and I love taking some dark brown sugar for a recipe, but all dark brown sugar is a little bit too much for me. This cookie is made with my preferred blend of granulated and brown sugar. A lot of times with my cookies, I won't just use light brown sugar or just dark. I use a blend of two, and it kind of might seem a little bit fussy, but it really works nicely to give you the best of both worlds without being overbearing. Let's go ahead and break into this cookie. It has a nice soft interior. It's tender, it's chewy, the edges are a little bit crisp, and that's thanks to using a blend. I think the flavor of this cookie is best because, again, it strikes just the right balance where you're still getting the other flavors in the cookie, the butter, the chocolate, you know, etc., but you're also having hints of brown sugar. This cookie has more of a caramelly or maybe even toffee-like undertone, whereas its neighbor here is a little bit more molassesy. I really, really love the balance here. Almost last, before we get to our bonus recipe, these are our cookies made with all light brown sugar. These are quite nice. I don't have a lot of bad things to say about these, except I don't like them as much as the ones made with the blend of granulated and light brown. When you use all brown sugar, because of the molasses, you can end up with a slightly more cakey cookie or one that's a little bit heavier. All of these cookies are going to be good. Nobody's going to complain if you make any of them and serve them. But if we're getting down to like really making the best cookie, a blend works best. Whereas this one, totally good, but just not as good as its counterpart that's cut with granulated. At least that's my opinion. Last up was our fun experiment. Like I said, nobody really makes chocolate chip cookies with powdered sugar, at least not 100% powdered sugar. But I wanted to try something a little bit different. These cookies were a wild card. Honestly, they spread more than I expected them to. Go ahead and open one up. They were softer than I expected them to be. They're also a bit more dry when you bite into them. The texture was a little bit different and the flavor was flatter than I had hoped it would be. Not exactly like a shortbread, but more in that territory than you want a chocolate chip cookie to be, at least a classic one. So here are my final thoughts on this. If you're looking for a chocolate chip cookie that has a nice structure and spread, has a really well balanced flavor, slightly crisp edges and nice soft centers, using a blend of granulated sugar and brown sugar is the way to go. That's the key to balanced cookies, and most recipes that you try are going to contain some kind of blend of the two, and I get why, especially after trying all these. So I'd like to know, what do you prefer? A cookie that's soft and chewy? Do you like the nice balanced one? Or do you like the wild card here? My goal here today was to give you a visual of the difference the different sugars make in cookies. That way when you're experimenting at home, you can make the choices that work best for your recipes. I really hope this was helpful. If there are any other experiments you'd like to see, let me know. I'm taking suggestions. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'd make sure I knew how many cookies we had. These are, oh, sorry, let me do it again. And I'm using the term I here generously because Mickey and Casey made the cookies. Oh, it doesn't want to stay in my hand. I know, I'm gonna go wash my hands. 25% light dark. Okay, where'd it go?